Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Good evening, guys. It's been a long time since I've seen to have hosted one of these, but I'm back hosting again on the transfer rumours. One in particular is circulating quite heavily in the last 24 hours, and that's Frenkie De Jong at Barcelona, possibly very, very close to signing for Man United. We're all sort of waiting with bated breath to see what happens with him. I believe there's been a bid, and Man United and Barcelona are just trying to iron out the finer details. But helping me get through some of the transfer rumours and the Frenkie De Jong saga, I've got John. How you doing, John? You all right, mate?
Very well, thank you. The second show of the night for me, so looking forward to it.
Busy man.
You'll be sleeping by end of today, mate, won't you? You'll be having a good kick by end of today, won't you? So
absolutely.
Yatesy, how you doing, mate? You all right? All right, Ben?
I'm very well. Although John threw me off because he posted on there, "Welcome to the show" at 10 o'clock, and I was like, I could have sworn he said 9.
I'm used to have it. Well, the show's usually at 10 o'clock. That's why 9 o'clock threw me off. So
I know it's nice to see that light coming through the window for a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah. Mr. Ton, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Just enjoying the transfer updates and the news, you know.
Well, I'm excited for this one because I've got 3 guys here who know the stuff. So I'm hoping you'll properly help me out and help the fans out. And anybody in the chat that's just coming in as well, don't forget to drop some questions in and drop some interaction in, because we want to get your comments up. And the guys want to be able to answer some of your queries as well if you've got some questions. So please do that in the chat. So we'll get straight onto it then, I suppose. We've got Frenkie De Jong. It's hopefully very, very close. We've been here before, guys, haven't we, with Man United? We're all hoping that it's going to go through. John, what's your views on it? Is this going to be likely to be happening in the next few days, or are we going to be looking at this in another month's time?
I think it's progressed. I think there's Gerard Romero said it. The transfer is getting hot. That's why he said a couple of days ago. I do think we're getting there. I think obviously we've had a first bid rejected and gone into Romano earlier, but I don't think we're that far off. I think we may be something like 10, 15 million euros short. So I think United were expecting it to be rejected. So I think they're preparing another bid. I would expect it to go in soon. I actually think it might go in over the weekend. I suspect the next bid will probably be early next week, on Tuesday, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's certainly progressing, and I do think eventually we'll end up a United player.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping it's really close on the on the cards. Yatesy, what do you think, Ben? What do you think, mate?
I think it'll be done, yeah, because I think Holland's last game's Tuesday in the Nations League, so that's your prime time to then grab him if you are gonna conclude anything in between now and then. Him playing for Holland to iron out any details with Barca, you can then obviously bring him in for his medical, as you'll be on international duty at the time. And the whole fee thing, I think that's just Barca posturing, so they're not being deemed or seen to be just bent over backwards to sell a player because they need the money. So they're going to show some sort of posture in how they sort of come back with to say that it wasn't all like United just had their own hand to take at him. They gave a bit to sort of get a deal that they felt was comfortable for them, as everyone knows they need the money. So
yeah, Mr. Tom, what do you recommend? Is it close? Is it going to likely to happen?
At the moment, it's heading in that direction. It's been heading in that direction for a while. I don't even know why Fabrizio even said about bids being rejected. They've been talking about it for a while now. It's not a bid's been rejected. They've offered them a price. Okay, we're going to pay this. It's just compromising at the moment. There's not a bid that's been rejected. Like, he's the only person that's actually said that. If you actually look into it, and especially on the Spanish side, no one's actually said nothing's been rejected. It's just a compromise at the moment, if that makes sense. They're trying to find a compromise. And obviously, Man United is trying to do smart business. They're not trying to blow a lot of their budget on one player. So they're trying to do a thing where, try to put between 40 and 50 and then the rest installments, which Barca can't really say no to. But you got to watch out. They got to vote for a lot of their deals that are, because obviously they got the two CVC deals, the Barca Studio deal. Then they got the BLM one as well. They got, I think there's 12 deals. They got to vote on the 16th on those deals. But regardless of them voting, they're still looking to. They've already made up their mind about Frenkie, and they've sort of ruined that relationship. Especially a lot of the reports in Netherlands is more like he's being forced out the club, if that makes sense. So that's gonna happen very, like it's like it was always gonna happen. If you go back to his interview, he said, what did he say again? Let me see if I can find his exact quotes. When they asked about contact, he said there is no agreement, nothing official. People should have read between the lines then. That's very telling to me. There's nothing official, no agreement. We've all watched football for how many years? When someone says that, we know what that means, isn't it? So it's just be patient, man. I feel like it's going to happen sooner than we think, to be honest.
Well, I'll kind of throw it back to you, and I'll go back around the group, really, Mr. Tom. But like, do you think he's a sign that we need? Is he somebody that, you know, when we were looking at the squad at the end of the last season, obviously with some major issues there and players leaving, was Frankie De Jong in your mind when you thought about the team and thought about players we needed to get hold of, or you know, do you think he's somebody that we need now, and do you think he'll make a difference?
Yeah, I've been the one, and people tell you on Twitter. I've said this was going to happen all back in January when it was more looking like we was going to get Pochettino. I was telling everyone, if you go for Ten Hag, he's going to go for Anthony. He's going to go for a centre back that knows his system, and he's going to go out and get De Jong. I knew this was. It doesn't surprise me, if that makes sense. And I've said it before on the channel a couple of times. It does not surprise me because he was crucial to how. And I think people forget that 18-19 Ajax, they dominated a lot of big teams in Europe. Their midfield dominated a lot of big. If you go back to Real Madrid game, especially, that's one of the most, evident one there. They bossed teams off the park. So you get one of the players that was instrumental to that, who controlled the tempo of your team. It makes sense. That's definitely a player. We don't have someone like that. Do you know what I mean? And people might not know the way he plays, but I've always said it. He's very much in the Modric sort of mode type of player.
Well, I stole an adjective off you. I think you called him the artiste. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is. I
stole that one off you for a tweet earlier on. So thank you for that. Ben, what's your thoughts on him? Do you think he's going to make a difference? Then, do you think is it somebody you really want to see coming through the door? I mean, it's obviously nice, and we're getting linked with him. Sort of, obviously, it's pretty close on the cards now. But I mean, now it's a reality almost. Is it somebody who's going to make a massive difference for us next season?
Yeah, I really like him. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see that Ajax team when they played Spurs, and he's a wonderful player, to be honest, and he plays the game in the right way. And I think the thing with De Jong, like Mr. T said, is that I look at him in the sense of you're buying a player that you can actually see a direction and a plan with. It's not like we're buying a player because he looks nice or because he's played well and you think, well, we need that sort of player because of what they add. He's got all of what you would want in a player that's prevalent to how the manager wants the team to play. He's not buying him for the sake of just having him. There's an actual plan in mind. And for me, he's the first player that we're going to have bought in reality that I can see a plan to since when we bought Van Persie. When Fergie bought him that season, we won the league. There was a clear plan of why he wanted Van Persie, and it was evident with the result in the league. Every player that we signed past that point to now has kind of been like that, but never really come to any fruition in that regard. Whereas De Jong, for me, as soon as we got linked with Erik ten Hag, and it was between him and Poch, I knew, like Mr. T said, the players you could reel off who he was going to probably go for, and two, if we've already got them, who you would then say have potentially got a chance to shine. And the three obvious ones were Timber, De Jong, Anthony, and then obviously you're always going to get the links with De Ligt because he was part of that team that did so well, but he was never really going to be one that you would probably see him going for. But they were the four players, other than Van der Beek, who we've already got. And De Jong, for me, has the ability to make other players who might not necessarily be that perfect cog in that position you want them to be in, seem to be very good in that position because of how he plays when he has the ball. If you watch him when he plays for Holland, LVG might not necessarily have a specific player for the role he wants him to do alongside him, but he's got enough of her attributes that when he plays with De Jong, it eradicates those errors or issues that you might have in a player because of how he plays when he gets the ball. He's always on the half turn. Like that Modric analogy is perfect. I think he's probably the closest example to Modric there is in European football at the minute, with how he plays the game. In terms of you don't necessarily have that fear with him because he's always got a plan in his mind of what he wants to do with the ball. It's never just a winging it or doing killer passes like what Pogba used to do. There's a plan and a vision of where he wants the ball to go, and it's always moving and it's always proactive and productive. So I think he'll be fantastic. I really do. And for what we're paying for him, if you convert that into pounds, it's pittance. Like I was texting you earlier, Reece, it's just that would be 11 million short of more than what Arsenal pay for Xhaka.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's your comparison in a nutshell. They paid 45 million for Xhaka with add-ons. We're getting him for 75, which equates to 62, but that's with the add-ons.
And like you said before, when you consider all the other attributes plus Ten Hag's in place and he knows how to use him, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is, because you're not starting from ground zero with him either, are you? He doesn't know the Premier League, but he knows how to play bloody football. He can hit the ground running instantly because he knows what the manager wants from him. He knows exactly what he needs to do when he's on the pitch. So the manager doesn't have to spend all manner of life talking to him about it. He knows straight away, this is what you need to do because you've done it for me routinely before. So there will be no phasing in sort of journey with him because he'll be on point from minute one.
Yeah.
And he's good enough to not met any other league won't affect him in my view. For me, I look at him and I think, well, look how easy David Silva took to the Premier League or Bernardo Silva. Everyone said, oh, they're not going to be able to survive because they're not big enough. They're not physical enough. Well, they're good enough players and that makes a difference.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've got a question coming from Peter. So John, I'll throw this over to John and I'll open it up to the panel. But how do you see Frankie De Jong sort of fitting into the midfield? And do you see him sort of playing in a 3 with Bruno and Van der Beek, or do you see him sort of with Freddie McTominay? How would you see that, John? And then I'll throw that out to the.
I think the probably is we're playing De Jong, Van der Beek, and Bruno. So the 3 attacking players are not really renowned defensively, and I think you'd have to play one of Fred or McTominay behind him, and I do think he's the type of player that will improve those players. It's interesting, like I saw comments made by Van der Vaart yesterday. For once, I actually agree with him because he says that you actually look at Netherlands' winner against Wales yesterday. In the 90th minute, it came from De Jong taking the ball in his own half and driving the ball forwards, and it led to their winning goal and stoppage time. And that, if you want to see what De Jong will bring to United, you just watch that clip. And for me, he is type, and he's really the only Dutch player that can do that for them. And what Van der Vaart was saying, when he joins United, he'll be the only player who can do that also, and I think he'll bring that drive to the midfield. Although you do need someone more defensive mind next to. He's possibly not the best defensive player. That's why I think you've also need another midfield signing, who's more defensive minded than that. But for me, he will bring that drive to the midfield, and what Ben touched on there. Dan Howell got caused a bit of friction when he's like, was 113 million euros worth. If Barcelona weren't in financial difficulty and he was on top of his game, you probably would have to pay that kind of money for him to sign him. So for me, he's the type of that we are getting a bargain because of Barcelona's financial struggles. They have to sell him, and we've not made many smart moves financially in the transfer market in recent years. But I reckon this is one way you can say if we get him for somewhere between 65 and 70 million with add-ons and all that, I think you can say, well, they struck a good deal there, and I think he will add to our team. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you, Mr. Ton or Ben, do you have much more to say on that on the question? Do you have anything to add to that?
Ben?
I was going to say, I think the person who, I mean, I might be quite biased because I quite like him and I've always sort of championed him since we signed him. But I think Van der Beek will maybe step on Bruno's toes initially because he's got someone in there who he knows who can play with De Jong. So if he then brings in somebody who can sit with De Jong in the system that he plays for Holland, if you watch whenever Van der Beek played with him, he was always in front of him. And they had such a good link-up play. They knew how they could read each other's passes. And whenever De Jong broke, Van der Beek knew naturally to sit and vice versa. And I'm not saying he's suddenly going to come in and replace Bruno, but I think what Bruno needs to probably understand is that in Van der Beek, he's got somebody who Erik ten Hag can go to and give a plan to and know that this person is going to carry it out to the T because he knows how to do it from all the times that they've spent training on the pitch doing it. I think he'll play well with Bruno because Bruno's a very good player and he plays well with all technically good players. I just think with Van der Beek, it'll probably be easier to play him with him because he'll naturally have that knowledge and understanding of what the system requires of him in it. Whereas obviously Bruno will have to learn that as they get to know one another.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
can I pick a bank on that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty much with Ben on that one. Look, it's very simple. Logically, you've got a player that doesn't know your system, never played in your system at all, and you've got a player that also has chemistry, hypothetically, if we get De Jong, with the player and knows your system. It's logic to me, innit? And that's what I base a lot of my theories on is logic. It's quite simple. I know it might upset some people, but if we get another starting midfielder, I very do much see either Bruno rotating sometime because we do have the Europa League, or just for the first couple months, at least 6 months, learning the system by training, being on the bench as well. And because Donny there's not much Donny needs to learn. Whether people like that or not, there's not much. He knows how Ten Hag plays. He knows the system. He knows how to play with De Jong. And one thing that when they have played together, what used to help is that when De Jong would drive, Donny will stay close to him, run off him, and then create like spaces where he can do the 1-2s off him. Like literally, I'm not even, if people actually go back, and this is in the archive, there's footage there for people. This is chemistry goes a long way and I remember Andy Cohen, the White Look, talked about the chemistry. It does go a long way on a football pitch, if that makes sense. It's logic to me, really. And I know that might step on some people's toes, but it's only, remember, this manager is coming in, he doesn't, to him, Bruno's not a favourite to him, if that makes sense. So if Bruno, to him already, he's going to have his lieutenants, and that will most likely be a De Jong. If he gets an Anthony, if he gets a Timber or a Dele, we don't know. And then Donny van der Beek, these are his sort of people that he can 120% trust on the pitch, and that will give all for that manager. And that's crucial to me. Do you know what I mean? We need that in the dressing room right now. At least 4 or 5 players that are going to give their all for that manager.
Yeah, they're all sort of thinking in the same sort of way. I think we need a similar sort of style as well, don't we, between all the sort of players? And I think that's kind of what we'll get. I mean, it's interesting. Maybe it'll be an unpopular one, but does a Martial fit into that system? He likes those types, that type of play. Is that a controversial one? I'm not sure. Maybe that's another day for a debate for another day. But
the thing with Van der Beek and Bruno as well, Reese, is if you consider Van der Beek a cog in a big wheel, he's never been put in the right position to be of any benefit since he's come to the club. So there's going to be moments where the cog will run in sync with all the other ones, but the majority of the time it's always going to be out of sync with everyone because he's never been in a position where he's been able to demonstrate what he can actually offer the team.
You can argue the same with De Jong at Barcelona as well. As well.
Well, I thought Van der Vaart's interview was quite telling in that he pretty much slagged Barca to the T about how they were utilising him and playing.
Well, I'll just come on to that. I mean, I've seen a lot of news from Van Gaal at the minute, and some other. I know it put a smile on my face when I saw some of the reports. So quite a bit of some bitter reports, whether you believe them or not. I think there is some slight truth to it, considering his exit at United. But what do you guys think on these kind of like ex-Dutch players sort of speaking ill of Man United and trying to sort of almost put some of these Dutch players off? Do you have much? Do you believe much into it, or do you think there's much like vindictiveness there, John?
I think to quote Ten Hag in his first press conference, yeah, I'll listen to who's in my own mind up. You know, it's I do think it's quite interesting. Van der Vaart spoke glowingly about De Jong, and he said that he should join United. So it's probably the first positive thing he's said about us, isn't it? So I do think I think what the interesting thing is the Dutch are very proud of their own, very proud of their players, and I think because they saw when Van der Beek went to United, they saw that as a big step up, and they've seen how in many ways we mismanaged him and all that, and they get upset. I mean, there was a period Van der Beek lost his place in the Netherlands team when he was an important player in that team, and I think when they leave, you know, the Ajax academy and the Ajax team, they still look out for them when they go internationally, and if they feel they're not being used properly, you know, they will get upset about it. And I do think that there's an element of, you know, we've had it with Van der Beek where Van Vaart and Van Gaal have said United mistreated them, and you know, we'll have Van der Vaart saying Barcelona mistreated De Jong, and now they're saying now that they got Ten Hag in, maybe they're looking at it and think, well, actually, he's one person who will look after the Dutch players at United and will ensure that they're protected and everything, and will ensure that they get game time as well. So, yeah, but I think Ten Hag will make his own mind up.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Do you guys have anything to say on that, Mr. Ton? Do you have anything you want to kind of say on some of these sort of Van Gaal reports and stuff like that? Similarly trying to put players off?
It's 50-50 because he also said the structure has changed, though. Do you know what I mean? Things have changed behind the scene. So, do you know what I mean? The way he spoke to me come across like he spoke to Ten Hag, if that makes sense, and knows, yeah, okay, things have changed. Because he also, yes, he did say like about Timber, you know, he'd rather him probably not move because, you know, about game time and things like that and World Cup. But it's obviously Van Gaal's relationship didn't end well, so he's going to say sometimes one or two certain comments, really. But I think, all in all, like I said, he did mention about things have changed behind the scenes, different people. Arnold's leading it instead of Woodward. So, you know what I mean? Let's see what happens, man. I'm optimistic. I'm really optimistic, I'll be honest to you. Especially if you get players that Ten Hag wants, his players, the profile that fits his system, and then players as well that we're linked to are players that already play in his system. I'm optimistic, man, because it speeds up the transition from, instead of just say waiting for like a whole year or 2 years to fully get to that point, we're talking about 6 to 8 months probably, because there's players there that is about five players that already know his style of play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we've got another question that's come in. It's a bit of a random one, but I'll put it out to everybody in the panel. But it's would you take Jesus? Personally, I'm surprised that there's even talks about letting him go. But I mean, Ben, what's your views on that? Would that even be even if it was an option, would you take it, considering he's a Man City player?
No,
neither would I. So I think that answers that question.
Irrespective of whether he's a City player or not, he brings nothing to the team that Ten Hag would want in a player, because he's a complete opposite of what Ten Hag would go for in how he plays. So it'd be pointless you buying him. Yeah,
totally agree. So we touched upon that question anyway, very quickly. So we'll move across to Nunez then. So obviously this was a play that I don't think there was 75%, any more than 75% hope that we would actually get this done, considering that we had no Champions League football. And I think Nunez made it pretty clear that he wanted Champions League football next season. So it was going to be difficult for United to sort of get that level of player. Is that going to be a massive sort of hit to United and much of a detriment to the fact that he's going to a big rival like Liverpool, or is it something that, considering where we are for next season, is it not going to really make much of a difference? John, what's your views on it, mate? Is it a big loss on Nunez?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of a deal we would have done maybe a year or two ago. But I just think that he's always had a very good season. He's a very good striker. I think he would have added strength to the team, but I think you got to look at prioritise. We don't have a massive budget. Obviously, we probably do need a striker, now that Cavani's gone, but we don't really. It's like if Ronaldo will stay, so I don't think we're desperate for another striker at this present moment. I would prefer a forward who's more like who can play across the forward three, interchanging, and someone can get the ball and bounce, that kind of thing. That's the kind of forward I would most look for this summer. I just think that he's obviously had a very good season. I think Liverpool are in the position where they can take a gamble if it is a gamble on him. I think his build-up play still needs to improve, but he is only 22 years old, so he might prove to be a superstar in the next 2 to 3 years. But I think at this present moment, it's not the right time to play for us at this moment. And we've got, like we can spend 80 million on a player like him for a forward position, which we don't necessarily need, or we can get De Jong, who's tried, tested, will improve the team in a position we need to for cheaper than that. So, which one would you rather go for? It's definitely De Jong.
I think you're probably right. I think Nunez is probably, it's not, I think we talked about the other night, and possibly on Spaces as well, where it's a finishing touch, isn't it, to a very good team, providing a striker that quality. I think adding it to the current sort of midfield that we've got probably isn't going to benefit Nunez, is it? So, Mr. Tom, what do you reckon on that? Is Nunez a big loss or not?
Yes or no? Yes or no, because as much as people talk about his touch and all that thing, I think he scores goals. Do you know what I mean? He's a high intensity player. I've watched fans moan about Rashford being lazy. I've watched fans moan about Martial's body language. I've watched fans moan about Ronaldo being lazy. But then they don't want a striker that's very high intensity, is a workhorse, gets around on the pitch. And Liverpool, we all know, they only buy players like that. You know what I mean? They only buy players, and their assistant said it in one of their things on the football coaching thing. We don't press, we chase. So imagine they've got a striker like that. So yes, it's like I said, yes and no. But the price, to be fair, we have other areas to sort out in our team. And we've got Rashford who can play as a striker, Ronaldo that can play as a striker, Martial, if we keep him, can play as a striker, Bruno Fernandes can play a false nine. So we do have options there. We don't have a natural right winger. We clearly don't have good midfielders at that level. Ten Hag clearly wants a centre-back. So we've got other priorities at the moment that are more like the spine of the team. Do you know what I mean? The striker Ten Hag has shown me, like with the 18-19 season when he played Tadic as a false nine, he can work with what he's got for the moment till he gets a striker, if that makes sense. So I'm not really too concerned. We just hopefully, yes, we're going to again probably go into the season without a natural striker, because Ronaldo's not a natural striker. None of them are really natural strikers, but they're all options that can play there. So do you spend 80 mil or 70 mil on a player that you might bench sometimes because of Ronaldo, or you're going to rotate with Ronaldo? Who starts in that situation? Do you know what I mean? And that it's a conundrum. That someone said it to me on one of the spaces. Ronaldo is a gift and a curse because you got Ronaldo, so you can't. If you wanted to go for a top class striker, but you've got Ronaldo. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's the situation.
Well, look at Song. Look at Ronaldo and Song this season. Both of them between them scoring 40 plus goals between them and X amount of assists. And obviously Son didn't make it into the team of the year, and Ronaldo didn't win anything, far from it. So goals are one thing, but you've got to be scoring goals and making sure that the team are winning as well. So bringing Nunez in, who's going to get 25, 30 goals. If we aren't doing anything with that 25, 30 goals and we're conceding twice as many goals, then it's not going to be worth a squat, is it? So for me, we need to be sort of sorting out the midfield, sorting out the defence, and then adding to that and putting the cherry on the cake afterwards with the striker. But I agree with you, mate. Just onto this question then, just to kind of flip it back to Frankie De Jong a second, because we were just talking about Nunez there for anybody that's just jumped into the chat. If you are in the chat and you only just started watching, please obviously share, like and subscribe as well. It does help us out. And drop a question in. The panel will pick it up tonight. That's what we're all about. That's why we're here, to pick up some questions. So I think just reading this question, I think what I'm getting from it is kind of, what do we do next? So we signed Frankie De Jong. With the current midfield, and I think there was a question earlier on about who do we play with Frankie De Jong, but who do we sign next to support him? I think that's the biggest one, isn't it? Do we need to sign somebody to support Frankie De Jong, or is Van der Beek the answer? Is he going to be the one that's going to be playing with him and helping him perform? What do you reckon, Ben? Does he just come into this midfield as it is now and just perform, or do you think he needs a couple of extra signings to support Frankie De Jong?
No, for me, you bring the question. If you're basing that question on now, then yes, but you bring him in because you're also going to add to it. So that question in reality won't come to fruition, because Frankie De Jong is going to have somebody alongside him who will allow him to get the ball. He's going to be in a position where the defence aren't having to feel that they've got to play that killer pass to somebody in midfield because they're so far away from them. If you look at the times whenever he gets the ball, the distance between him and the centre-backs isn't vast. So you instantly remove that issue of the centre-backs feeling pressured and having to almost take ownership of the ball for everyone else in the team, because there's nobody around them to give it to who's looking at that easy pass. He's always there. The goal that they scored against Wales that John mentioned, he took the ball instantly off the defence. It wasn't a killer pass that they had to give to him. He was just there at the right place at the right time to get the ball off of them, and then he then went forward with it. So for me, I think that question only comes to prevalence once the window's closed, because then you'll know the midfielders that he's looking to bring in will have arrived or not arrived by that point, and then the judgment on that question then becomes the answer for you then, because you'll then know. But I don't have any worries of him not getting the ball and being bogged down, because he will naturally bring players up a level because of how good he is on the ball. The way he'll play in the system that Ten Hag wants will naturally relieve pressure on players who aren't comfortable in that position that he flourishes in. So that they won't be in that position where our defence is giving away the ball too much, or the midfielders that are taking the ball aren't taking it in the right way or receiving it in the right way to then be productive with it moving forward, because they won't be being asked to do that. He'll be doing that for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's got enough. Let's be honest, we've still got Bruno there. And Bruno's still got those qualities, hasn't he? Really, he's still got some, brilliant forwards in front of him. He's still got Sancho there. We still haven't seen his full potential as well. So there's still players around him that are still going to provide him with that, those outlets and that quality to hopefully pick him up. I mean, we're talking about potentially a world-class signing here as well, aren't we? He's playing on an international stage regularly with the Dutch team. So, yeah, definitely, it's a big signing. John, where do you think the kind of next areas are? I mean, I've noticed a lot in chat. Jacob sort of said there the main concerns, the fullback area. Is that kind of an area where you think we need to get a signing or two this season?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I personally think we need to sign up on the right back, in my opinion. I don't think Wan-Bissaka will most likely go. I think Delo is a good player, but I don't think he's good enough to be a starter for us. I can see Ten Hag using him, but I can't. I think he'll look to replace him and that, and I think also Alonso will probably sign a left back as well. I think Telles will go. I think Wan-Bissaka will go. I think Shaw maybe for another year might work, but yeah, I will look at another full-back. I will look at signing another midfielder. Such on Apex's comment, I do think, and I agree with Ben, he will improve our midfield, but he won't solve our midfield issues. I do think we need to look at getting another midfielder in who's more defensive-minded to complement him, to pass him the ball and to progress it forwards and that kind of thing. And I do also think we need to sign another forward player, not necessarily a striker, number 9, but more, like forward player, a right winger maybe, someone who can, because no doubt we've been linked with, and Kunku before, we've been linked with Anthony in recent days as well. I think that's the kind of player we might look to bring in. So yeah, I think another midfielder, a right back, and maybe a right winger, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Tom, do you agree with that? Sort of where do you think the sort of next areas are? I mean, there's some questions coming up, actually. We'll kind of touch on this as well. We'll touch on this question. We'll come back to this, but at the end. But will the ideal back four choices? So hold your thoughts on that one, and we'll come back to that, Peter, later on in the show. But where do you think kind of the next area is?
We've got a centre half as well. We need a centre half as well.
If we go on the briefings anyway that the club, has given the Athletic, it's sort out the midfield, then look at the forward options. Obviously, it went from a striker to then if they can find a sort of forward player instead of a striker, and then go on the defense, if that makes sense. I'm not one of Luke Shaw's biggest fans, to be honest. I think we need a left back more than right back. That's just my opinion. Because we've got, I don't want to I'm going to try to be nice here. We've got a left back's been there for 8 seasons, 2 goals. I said it the other day, 4, but it's actually 2 goals in 8 seasons and then 14 assisted. That's not good in modern football. Do you know what I mean? For that output, especially if you want to play an attacking brand, regardless of he passes. And I always say this: I don't look at football just with Man United scope. I look at the whole Europe. So if you base these stats against other left backs in Europe, it's not that great. Do you know what I mean? As an attacking fullback, it's actually not that great. So that's definitely an area I will personally more look at, in my opinion, than the right back. And we are more linked with more credible sources, more to a left back than a right back at the moment. Yeah. So that'll be the one position that. But I reckon that'll be a position that will happen with outgoings, if that makes sense. I think the main priority does seem like sort out the midfield, sort out a forward. Like I will go exactly what John said. We need a right winger, in my opinion. We're like too heavy on the left side right now. Martial, Rashford, Elanga, who came out the other day, said he's better on the left. Sancho, who else? Cristiano really on the left. They all really can play on the left, and who's naturally on the right now? Do you know what I mean? So we are like left heavy, and then we just lost a couple of left footers. Matic. We've only got Fred, if I'm correct, and Ahmad, but he's not really a first team at the moment. We need a right winger who's left footed, in my opinion. We definitely need that. We need to. Rafinha's another good option. Do you know what I mean? I know some people don't like him, but that's another good option because that crazy chaotic style that they was playing in the high intensity, and he's been in the Prem for how many years now? He'll fit in perfect, in my opinion. But
I mean, it was like vultures circling when Leeds were almost going to get relegated, because that would have been a player that
he had a clause. He apparently had a clause: if they got relegated, you get him for 25 mil.
See, my biggest bugbear with this United team, and I think with the Fergie teams, he always made sure he had this sort of direct crossing, these crossing wingers. Always had these direct sort of crossing wingers, and when Valencia came in and he sort of replaced. Let's be honest, he kind of replaced Ronaldo, didn't it? Really, it was kind of the Ronaldo replacement, and we were all like thinking, well, he's quite a basic right winger. You know, Ronaldo's come with all these flashy skills and all these goals, and it was kind of very basic, kind of like beat your man on the outside, get the ball in the box. But it became a staple. It became like, actually, he's doing the right thing. And to be fair, there was some success from it, and he was brilliant at that. And I think we've gone away from that, where we've gone with these inverted wingers, where they want to cut inside on the stronger foot and try and hit it from distance. And we don't have any of these wingers now that just want to get wide and get the ball into the box. It's absolutely infuriating. Every time we get into those positions deep in the opponent's half, we look for a cross, and then it's, oh no, we'll turn back and we'll play it back into midfield, and it's absolutely infuriating. So I'm totally with you on that one. I think a right winger for me is somebody who can cross a ball. Is something we've been screaming out for quite a number of years, to be quite honest. Ben, just back to you, mate. who do you think is the next kind of major signing that we need after this Frankie De Jong one? Providing we get Frankie De Jong, we're all assuming that we are from this chat. So positive energy going around. So, but who do you
in
think
terms of a different position within the team, or
where do you think the next target, the next big issue is, and then the next target that we need to maybe not names, but just position wise, where do you think is the next place we should be targeting?
He's probably going to bring in. I'm guessing he's probably looking at a centre back. If the fact that we've told Bailly and Twanzeba they can both go. I like Pau Torres, but I also like the young lad at Sporting. He's in a similar mould to Torres, not as big a name because of the club he's at, and obviously the sort of public eye that he's been, or the public image that he's been given in terms of on that platform. Left back, so I don't like Tellers. I know we've obviously got the youngster Fernandez, but you need to give him a platform to be able to come through at a steady rate of knots, not go from 0 to 100 and expect him to cope with that jump because of the pressure that's going to be on him by the fact that everyone will go, United haven't got a very good left back anymore. I like the Feyenoord lad. I thought he's quite good. Is it Malaysia? I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. And also, like what Mr. T said, if you look at the rumours, because there's been so many, when you filter out the misinformation that's put out there and you actually drive down on what's actually concrete and valid and what isn't, there's more stretch towards centre-back and possibly a left-back than there is actually a right-back. Because everyone's just assuming if we do sign Timber, for argument's sake, he's going to go in at right-back, but Ten Hag might not do that. So I like Anthony, like what the guys have said. Because he's very direct. He does cut in, yes, but he's also not afraid to get down the byline because obviously they've had Haller in their squad, who's a target man who scored a lot of goals for them, and Anthony's been very direct in the fact that he's almost gone Valencia-esque in how he's approached the game sometimes when you've watched them play. He hasn't always just cut in and done that typical left footer on a right side, having to come in to then play the ball in, like sometimes what Mahrez does. He does go at players, beat them, and then not try and beat them 300 times sometimes that you see Mahrez do. But now I think that type of player that Mr. T's mentioned, left back, I still think we should get Eriksen because I just think he'd be absolutely fantastic. Not just because of the fact that he's another midfielder, but just everything about him. He is for me an upgrade on Mata, but with all the attributes that Mata has: composure, ability on the ball, awareness, space, making time seem like it's effortless in a very condensed environment. Adds great value to the team. Brilliant for the youngsters. Gives us a platform to go on multiple stages to compete for trophies because you've got not just a squad, but you've got a squad of quality. And he's proven he can muster the Premier League by what he did with Brentford last season.
I totally agree. I love him to bits. I mean, I think what Frankie De Jong, Eriksen, and maybe Neves in that midfield three. That was something that we'd all agree upon.
Well, I saw a stat when they announced obviously the players whose contracts were out, and they obviously I think it was about 50 million. They said that we were going to save in wages. Frankie De Jong's wage that they estimated he would potentially ask for coming to United is still less than Pogba's. And what Eriksen was on at Brentford was he was on a set salary plus bonuses because of they gave him incentive to see how many games he could play. Now I'm not saying you do the same thing at United, but the structure that he was on at Brentford wasn't skyrocketing, given that they're the level of team that they are. He wasn't asking for all the crown jewels. So I think he's someone that it's a complete free hit with because he's not going to ask for the world. He's just happy to be able to play football and be alive.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Well, let's come back to because we've got another sort of 15, 20 minutes. Let's see how we get on, see how much we're enjoying talking about whether players are actually going to come or not. There seems to be a lot of people in, which is good. So I appreciate everybody that's watching and adding to the comments. The comments are great. So keep adding your questions in. We've got another question from Peter. I've seen him just post another one as well. So we'll come to that in a second. But let's arc back to the other question that Peter dropped in. It was just regarding first choice back four. So, John, I'll start with you, mate. What's your... Let's go for first choice back four based on what we know in the transfer market and who you would like, as well as what you currently know at United. So a mixture of maybe, some of the transfer targets as well.
Yeah, right. I think De Gea will probably be the number one. I will like us sign a right back. If not, it's probably going to be Delo. I do think we'll probably get Timber, so I can see us getting that deal over the line. Potentially, that's probably why it's gone quiet, because we may be working De Jong. So probably think we might play Timber. Varane if he's fit. If not, probably Maguire. Left back Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw. What do you reckon, Mr. Tom, on your back fours? Would you agree with John on some of those choices?
Yes and no. If we get, I feel like we'll go Timber, Varane. If those two are fit, I think they'll complement each other well. Right back will be Delo. Left back, if we do sign a left back, will be the new left back. So that's how
Any names on that one, do you reckon? What about, I mean, Peter's other question was Brandon Williams. I mean, would we likely see Brandon Williams come back and get a shot?
I don't think he will, to be honest. I might be wrong, but I don't think if this Ten Hag's a very Dutch manager, and they like left footers at left back, if that makes sense, and not right footers at left back. So I don't see that happening. He could be a backup option at right back if we sell Wan-Bissaka though. I feel like we could keep him for like a year. You know what? I'm pretty sure Fernandes will go on tour with them. You never know. He might surprise us in the preseason tour. We don't know. I definitely think there's a chance.
He's quite a big kid as well, isn't he? He's quite a tall, big, strong.
Physically, yeah. I've been saying that. Physically, he looks like he's ready. Physically, I don't know, but physically, out of the bunch that he's in, he does look a bit. His shoulders are quite, you know what I mean, out there.
Tall for a left back.
Yeah, like he looks like physically he's ready for that step. But pre-season, we will tell.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, mate. And Ben, what do you reckon? What's your back for? What do you reckon with the rumours that are going on as well?
I think it'll be Dalot at right back, because I can't see, sadly, at Wan-Bissaka saving himself. I think it'll be Timber, Varane, and then left back. I like the Dutch lad from Feyenoord. He's who I would buy. And I would assess Fernandes on pre-season. Williams, I would move across, but then I would also base it on what you're doing with Ethan Laird, if you're going to have him as a backup, because he's done quite well from the right back side of things. And then obviously David De Gea in goal, because I can't see Henderson starting.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, that obviously begs a question, which I'll slide on quite seamlessly, about the captaincy then. So do you think it's definitely up for debate then, or definitely going to be swapping out of Maguire's hands?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think it'll be going? Do you think De Gea's nailed on for getting the captaincy next season?
No.
Ronaldo.
I think the captaincy won't be decided until Ten Hag has brought in who he wants to bring in.
Right.
It's not nailed on. I know Cristiano is obviously what you perceive to be the obvious choice with the figure and what he does for Portugal, and then De Gea for his experience and time at the club. But Ten Hag's the manager. They're not. And those two avenues have been tried before and not been great. And for me, the Ronaldo thing, you don't count him as someone to wear the armband, because everything about him as a person carries leadership for people to follow. He doesn't need to have an armband on to illustrate that. And Ten Hag, if you look at Ten Hag's history, he's always been someone who will champion someone he knows. because Frankie De Jong doesn't have maybe what people perceive as the personality to shout and bawl at people, because everyone instantly reverts back to what Keane was like. You don't have to. There's all different ways to be a leader. Frankie De Jong might be amazing at getting a message across to the players on the ground. You don't know that, but he also understands the manager, so he'll be far better to illustrate that message to the rest of the team than a keeper who's not really going to be involved in the game as much as you'd want him to be, and Ronaldo who's going to be further up the pitch. So I think that won't be decided until he's brought in whoever he wants to bring in.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, do you guys did Mr. Ton, John? Do you have any views on that?
I used to say on Spaces that it wouldn't surprise me if he made Donny van de Beek just because he's been at the club, nice fellow, everyone likes him. No one ever has a bad word to say about him. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me. But then I agree as well. But that it wouldn't surprise me if he gave it to De Jong. Do you know what I mean? The only two real options apart from Maguire really is Ronaldo and the keeper. If you think about it, there's only those two options. But he could surprise us. He made a 19-year-old Delut or 18-year-old Delut at the time captain of the Ajax team. Like, he actually could surprise you. Like, whoever he's, like what he said, like whoever he sees fit and who he wants to be his lieutenant on the pitch or his coach on the pitch, he will decide that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I say, it's exciting times, isn't it? You know, and I think, well, whether it's unfairly, I just think as fans, you've got to be quite pragmatic and not believe so much what you're seeing and hearing. But obviously, Ten Hag's already getting sort of judged upon in the window, even though it's only been open a week and a half. It's like give the guy a break. You know, he's not even seen his team yet, has he? Really, they've all been on international duty. So, and then
I remember I was going to say, Reece, sorry. I remember
no, you're right.
A thing he said about Daley Blind, in that he said that people would automatically assume that I would make Daley Blind in some capacity the figurehead for the team. But he said that doesn't help the team, because you're never ever giving somebody the opportunity to test themselves in an environment where they have to take ownership of what they're doing. He said Daley Blind is the perfect person for me to be that invisible man in the background with the team, who is that shoulder to burden for the captain if he's a youngster, or like De Ligt, for argument's sake, when he was there, but allows that person to tread his own path.
Yeah.
And having Daley Blind in the background to allow him to sort of be that middleman between what the manager's trying to get across and how the youngster can sort of interpret that information to the team with his lack of experience is why he was so forthcoming with allowing what people might perceive as being not experienced enough to wear the armband, because you don't know until you give the person the armband.
Yeah,
it's all an assumption up until that point.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm sort of torn on it really in terms of how much of an impact it makes. I think if you've got enough, I think we spoke about it earlier on, and Mr. Ton, it might have been you that said it. I think it might have been Ben. I apologise if it was one or the other, but it was just once you get a team all sort of going in the right direction, and I think you get 4 or 5 players all thinking the same and all competing at the same sort of level, the captain's immaterial, isn't it? Because you've got these players that are all wanting the same thing, they're all pushing each other. So, that's kind of what we want, isn't it? It's great to have the person wearing the band. There's a bit of tradition around it, but you really want 4 or 5, 6 players all pushing each other, all got the same sort of qualities to be able to be captain. It's not just on one individual. So
yeah, no, you're spot on. I just want to allude to that, piggyback on that. Ten Hag at Ajax, especially the 18-19 team, what he said was, De Ligt was my leader at the back, and I've said this before on the channel. De Jong was my leader in midfield, and Donny was my leader in the front line. That's how he described those 3 players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so like there's obviously like leaders within each sort of zone of the pitch, so almost, yeah, makes a lot of sense. We'll move on to midfield then, I suppose. So I'm going to kind of conjure up a bit of a team, see if we can get it on the screen and see how it looks. But when we'll sort of somehow agree upon all this. But so midfield, I'm assuming we're playing sort of 4-3-3 in some sort of fashion. What's our midfield for next season? Considering again transfers, are we going a Fred, De Jong, Bruno? Are we going a Van der Beek, De Jong, Bruno? Are we putting Bruno in there at all? What do we reckon, John? What's your kind of midfield 3 or whatever it is?
I will prefer us to have a second midfield sign. If we do, I can see them starting. If not, then I can see Fred playing with De Jong.
Yeah.
And I do personally think he'll start with Bruno. So I think Van de Beek might push him, and that I think that'll be more as the season goes on. I think speaking with you, will play Bruno from the start.
So do you think it'll be Bruno, De Jong, and somebody else in that midfield? Did you say?
I think it'll be if we sign another midfielder, which I think we'll need, then I think they'll start. If not, then I think it'll be Fred.
Right. Well, brilliant. Yeah, Mr. Tom, what's your view on it, mate? On your midfield, providing we.
I'll be honest. De Jong, Donny, and the third midfielder. I really do believe he's trying to create that midfield that dominated European football 18-19 season.
Brilliant. And Ben, do you agree with that?
I'm going big and bold. I'm going De Jong, Van der Beek, Neves.
Neves, right.
And then my backup three would be Eriksen, Bruno, Fred, or Garner.
I will like Neves.
Yeah, I'd see a Neves in there as well. I'm going to add that in actually just to see how it looks, and then we'll see. So front three then, guys. What do you reckon for front three? Bearing in mind that Sancho's got a massive season to prove himself this season. I think we saw a young kid come into a massive club, and we spoke about this, didn't we, on the Spaces about all the young kids who have had opportunities at United, and unfortunately the club has put this pressure on them, this weight on their shoulders, which they've just not been able to shake off. Unlike Rooney and Ronaldo when they were coming in as teenagers, you had these big stars and big personalities around them to help them through it. Sancho's got a big season this season, so do we see Sancho having a big part in this team next season in the starting lineup? Ben, do you want to start off with that?
Well, as in what my front three will be?
Yeah, as your front three, mate. Yeah, sorry.
So I'll go Anthony on the right. Obviously, Ronaldo up top, and then I'll go Sancho left.
Do you mean Anthony from Ajax or Anthony Langer?
Anthony from Ajax, just to be specific for John.
That would be a lot of Anthony's though. Anthony Martial, Anthony.
What do you reckon, Mr. Ton, on that one? Do you agree with Ben on that?
I agree 100% with Ben. That's a good. I feel like it's a really good front three, to be honest with you.
Well, you've just teamed me up, John. Do you agree with that? So I've got pretty much got the team in front of us now. So
I actually, if we sign Tim, I don't think we'll sign Anthony. So
ignore the numbers, by the way. That's me presuming.
Yeah, so I do think Sancho will play. I think Ronaldo will play. I think if we do sign a right-sided player, they will play. If not, they might go with Langer.
Langer, right?
Yeah, if we don't make a sign in that position.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we could obviously set Ronaldo off as well, which would be a shock to most fans, couldn't it? But obviously he's got to be used to the fact that he's probably not going to start at some point this season, isn't he? So if we do sign an Anthony, could he come in here and allow even a Garnacho? Could Garnacho get a start this season, or maybe on the other side? But could a Garnacho come in? That might be a tall ask for a Garnacho.
Not mentioned Rashford yet, have we?
No, there's Rashford as well. Obviously, and there's obviously a few players like Martial coming back, which I know everyone wants to see the back of him as well. So we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, Rashford could obviously come in here if we don't sign an Anthony as well, and that could be it. That could be the front three next season, which is a pretty similar front three to how it's been most of the season, hasn't it? Really, to be fair. So yeah, it could be a front three there. Some other suggestions coming in the chat. I'll just remove that. So Jarvis has said Tadic from Ajax. Anybody have any views on Tadic from Ajax? That'd be a good signing. I think Clive's agreed. Rashford could come good this season, he said, which I agree with. I think he's due a good season, isn't he, Ben? I think you've been a big kind of advocate for Rashford, and you've got some hope still left for him, haven't you, this for next season?
Sorry, Reece, was that one before that comment? Was that we were going to sign? He wants us to sign Tadic.
I think so. I think that was the idea. Yeah, I think that you were saying Tadic. You wanted us to see us sign Tadic. Yeah,
I could see Bruno. No, I could see Bruno doing the Tadic role because he's done that. If you look at what Tadic did for Erik ten Hag at Ajax, you could have the three. So say for argument's sake, we sign Neves. You could do Neves, De Jong, Van der Beek, and then have Bruno in front.
Yeah, that false.
And then you'd have your two wide men, whether that be Sancho and, for argument's sake, say Anthony, almost doing like that split striker role that we did under Ollie sometimes. But you'd have that four. I mean, that four in midfield would be exceptional if you had those four playing in a system where they're all singing off the same hymn sheet. But I wouldn't sign Tadic now, because what would be the point of having Bruno?
Yeah. I'm just a bit skeptical with the false nine thing. I mean, I love the false nine idea. I really do. But we played it a couple of times this season, didn't we? And it didn't really work. I don't think it really works with necessarily because I don't think we were that familiar with that kind of press, which I think you need when you're playing a false nine.
I think the whole false nine thing, though, Reece, I think is it looks catastrophically bad if you've just gone with it as a one-off, or you don't work on it routinely. Ten Hag routinely has worked on that system, so it's not a system that he's just drawn up. And also he would have the personnel to facilitate that system. We never really had the players to facilitate it or worked on it often enough to show that it could be of a benefit to us moving forward.
Just to clarify as well, Jarvis did say that was my interpretation of. I got the wrong interpretation. He did say play a similar role to Tadic.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
So I mean that kind of wraps it up, guys. I appreciate everybody's views on that. I think hopefully this time tomorrow we'll be a little even more closer. If not, I've signed Frenkie De Jong, and then hopefully then the wheels start turning on some other signings. I think we've all agreed tonight that there's a hell of a lot of things that we need to make a move on in terms of certain positions, and not only positions but the captaincy of the team as well, which is a big one. So that'll obviously have an effect on who we sign and stuff next season. I appreciate everybody's comments. Really, it's been a really good night, and plenty of people watching, plenty of questions, plenty of interaction, and as always, appreciate John's time, Ben and Mr. Ton adding some commentary to it as well, and adding their views because it's always appreciated. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Catch us on Spaces. We always do a couple of Spaces a week as well on Twitter if you catch us on there. And don't forget to catch us in the next one, guys. Cheers. See you later.
Cheers, Reece. Cheers, guys.